City Council to come to order, please. Clerk, call the roll.
Wright,
Present.
Godwin,
Here.
Hensley,
Here.
Michelle,
Here.
Rogers,
Here.
Schmidt,
Here.
Whitaker.
Here.
Let's all stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. You may be seated. Approval of minutes, you received the, June 4th, and the special as well, June the 6th. Minutes, any additions or corrections? And you did send out a correction on one, right? Okay, so seeing no objections or corrections from members of council, will stand approved as presented. Approval of the current financial report. You all received copies from the auditor's office on the current financial report. Any questions, comments, or need a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion, Mrs. Howdeshell, to approve the current financial report from the auditor's office. Discussion? Call the roll, please.
Wright,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Hensley,
Yes.
Hoddeshell,
Here.
Rogers.
Or yes.
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Whitaker.
Yes.
Approval of the agenda. I have one addition on the under ordinances and resolutions, and that'll be become excuse me, resolution number 9. It was received by the clerk after the agenda was put out. It's a resolution to waive fees for the New Madison disaster relief, and it has an emergency clause. And also, I have a need for an executive session at the conclusion of council under Ohio Revised Code 121.22G1, which is matters of personnel. Read it specifically here, pretty much. To consider appointment, employment dismissal, discipline, and/or compensation of a public employee or official to that effect. And that's all I have at this time.
Move to approve or amend the agenda, please.
Motion by Mr. Schmidt to approve the agenda as amended. Discussion? Call the roll.
Wright,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Hensley,
Yes.
Hoddeshell,
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Whitaker.
Yes.
Now, public hearing. Anyone wishing to address council may do so at this time. Please come to the microphone, state your name and address, and whatever your concern or question or whatever it may be.
Good evening, Honorable Council, citizens. My name is Matthew Guyette. I'm a resident of North Broadway, and I live at number 614. A lot of work going on up on North Broadway, as everybody knows. I'm here to maybe raise an issue as far as street lighting, which I think I've emailed some of the council members about recently, and I also had a nice conversation with Mr. Garrison, the safety director, and I finally got some real information. There's a lot of misinformation flying around among the residents as far as what's going to be done. I'm trying to keep this from... it seems that the old-fashioned acorn lights are scheduled just as far as the three-way, and then from the three-way as far as Russ Road, my understanding is they're going to be putting in what are known as Cobra lights, similar to the ones they put on Schweitzer and in front of the new school up on Ohio Street. I understand that, and correct me if I'm wrong in anything I say, my understanding is that if the residents were willing to kick in some money through an assessment, we might be able to have the acorn lights all the way to Russ, which I think everybody would agree. They're beautiful lights. They do a lot for the neighborhood. They really would make a nice entrance into Greenville on 118. The thing that I see as the stumbling block, because some neighbors have already contacted me, apparently they had a history on this. They said their understanding is it would cost about $400,000 extra to use the acorn lights versus the Cobra lights. And if we did an assessment of just the people living on North Broadway, it would come out to about $400 every half year. And from people I've spoken to, I think that's more than most people would be willing to vote for or to be in favor of. The real reason I'm trying to go for the older lights, I think the Cobra lights wouldn't be really as bad, but I think the main problem with them is they're going to have exposed wiring. It's going to have overhead wiring all down North Broadway, which up until now we haven't had. We've had the wiring behind the houses, so it makes a nice view as you drive down North Broadway. But apparently the main cost of these Acorn lights is doing all the electrical work and burying all that underground. Apparently, I spoke to Mr. Garrison. I said, well, how about if we used less lights than they've used on 4th Street, because it's kind of out away from downtown, and it would actually, to me, it would look better if they were a little more spaced out. And he informed me that the cost of the lamps themselves is $96,000, I think, if I have that right, of the 400. So the bulk of the cost of the upgraded lights would be all that electrical work that has to be done. I was wondering if we could either, and I'm not sure if this is even possible, if we did an assessment, considering the fact that the neighborhoods on both sides of Broadway use Broadway, could the assessment include them? That's one idea and one way to spread the cost out among more people and have it be a little bit less. And the other thought that I had was, would it be possible to just do one side of Broadway with the Acorn lights instead of having to have the Acorn lights on both sides all the way to Russ Road? So those were two ideas that I had. I've really just kind of gotten into this process in the last week, and I was under the impression that maybe it was too late to even do anything about it. But Mr. Garrison said that, well, the project's moving along quickly, but if the residents are interested, there's still time to maybe make a change. So I'm here to maybe just say there are at least some residents that I think would be open to the idea, depending on how much the semi-annual assessment would be. And maybe we could explore further if there's a way to at least do one side of the street with the Acorn lights instead of what's already been decided. And I know this is kind of coming at the last minute, and apparently this project was already decided. But it seems that most people on Broadway have no idea what's even going to be happening. So rather than wait for it to all be put in and have everybody unhappy with the overhead wiring, I thought I would at least come and raise the issue and see what kind of avenues are open for us at this point. So that's what I've got. Thank you.
Matthew, have you,
Sir?
question? Have you talked to any of the businesses out there along North Broadway? Would they be willing to chip in, so to speak?
Well, where I live on North Broadway is all residential, and my understanding is the project has already been spec'd for the Acorn lights up as far as the 3-way, which is where most of the businesses are, the Maid-Rite, Sherwin-Williams, all the rest of them. So what we're really talking about is from North Main to Russ. And I don't think there's any, are there businesses?
You've got Zeckers.
Okay, there's the funeral homes. Yeah, have not. No, I'm really just getting involved in this right now because I thought it was already a done deal, and I frankly didn't know what was going to be happening. Initially, I heard, well, we're going to have some disruption, but we're going to have all these beautiful lights. And I think there's a lot of misinformation out there about what's been decided. So, did anybody else have any questions? Or
I just wanted to question Mr. Garrison. What can we do as far as coming up with some pretty solid figures? I mean, are those figures that you have, or?
The numbers that we discussed at the last council meeting were for another project that is based upon length of project. I feel it would be similar to.
But we don't know for sure.
We do not know for sure. So I have made contact with the electrician on the job site. We've discussed a few options. Him and I are still coordinating our schedules, but would like to get together either this week or in the very near future and have a discussion about what a separate project would look like between the city and an electrical contractor. As Mr. Guyette explained, the majority of the work to be done is underground electric, and that's what this electrical contractor would do. So we're just going to talk price and look at us, maybe contracting this project separately outside of the normal North Broadway project. Therefore, it wouldn't be marked up as much. Also have the option to go to a local supplier and purchase the fixtures directly, and then the electrician would install them. Or even, we have the capability that, if we had the foundations put in, the electric run, it's something that we could install the fixtures ourselves, the poles and the lights ourselves. So there's a couple different options. We're going to explore all of them.
Okay, great.
And Matthew is correct that, we are not necessarily under the gun as long as the property owners understand that we're continuing this process and we may go without street lighting in certain parts of the section of North Broadway for a certain period of time until we can get this decided. I'm also, in conjunction with this project, working with Miami Valley Lighting. They have not completed the lighting plan for that section, so we have some time and we'll continue the exploration. I'll bring back the data that I find out, and this council can make a decision.
Good.
Do you have any idea what kind of time we're talking about, Kurt?
I hope to meet him yet this week. I'm going on vacation the following week, so if that doesn't happen, it'll be in July. Just hopefully soon.
But you still have time.
Yeah,
Good.
absolutely, yeah.
Can I say one other thing? The only other place I've seen these old-fashioned lights is up in St. Henry. Maybe people are familiar with how 118 looks when you go into St. Henry. I drove my car up there and I measured how many light poles there were in a mile. It appears that they've installed them one every 150 feet, but they're also a little bit different lights. They're shorter and smaller. I think on North Broadway we could even do one every 200 feet, and I think it would be more than adequate because right now all the lighting we have is over the intersections. So Harmon, Park, and I think Meeker, there's very little lighting right now, so almost anything would be an improvement. And I wonder if we could maybe do one side, do an assessment for 5 years and see how it goes, and if people want, we could do the other side maybe. That just as a homeowner who doesn't really know all the details that Mr. Garrison does, just ideas that I had, but I hope we can move forward with it.
Thank you.
Anything else? Can I?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Growing up around the Ansonia-Rossburg area, maybe we could just run it through Ansonia and Rossburg, New Weston, get the mayor of New Weston to go for that, and we go all the way to Burkittsville. Yes, sir.
Howdy, Timothy Gilbert. Sorry about that. I just had a few questions and comments, and thank you for listening to these things. Out of my ignorance of being back here only a couple of years, I have seen a lot of other projects on sidewalks and things in cities where I've lived over the past 40 years. And the quotes and comments from the city council members and the safety director and things, I have a question about, if it's okay to ask those here.
What is your address, Tim? May I have it, please?
Mr. Garrison stated in the minutes here that he's got a 10-year plan to lay out for the project. He also claims that he's going to spend $600,000 on the project next year. So is this going to be a 10-year project of $6 million in scope, or is this $600,000 spread over 10 years? Just an innocent question.
If we can just stop and I'll try to address those as you go.
Certainly.
So first of all, the overall sidewalk project was estimated based upon the repairs that would need to be done at $600,000, and I believe some change. I don't think it was exactly $600,000. With the assessment process that the council is considering, property owners can complete that project themselves, and the city would not have to do the project. If you have a broken sidewalk or sidewalk that needs to be repaired in front of your home, and you receive a letter, and you choose to do that yourself, then that would come off of the $600,000 city project. The city is only going to spend money if a property owner by a certain time does not complete the repairs as requested, then the city will come in and they will bid that project out based upon all the repairs needed in that particular area. Granted, so I'm going to go back and say, we used a high number when we provided that first estimate. We don't want to underestimate and then come back and somebody say, well, you told me it was only going to cost me $100 and now it's costing me $200. So we estimated high. All the numbers that we have discussed through this point is merely an engineer's estimate. We would not know firm construction costs until next year when the project would be bid out. Now, if everybody would complete the repairs, then there would be no cost to the city and there would be no assessments.
Now, that's for section 1.
That is just for section 1.
Oh, so we have
We have
9.
10 sections, as
Yes.
you alluded to, we have 10 sections.
And the first section was going to cost 600,000.
Based upon the assessment and the engineer's cost, all the repairs in that area totaled $600,000.
And so do we have estimates for the subsequent?
We do not.
No, okay,
That's not what this council asked me to do.
Not yet, anyway.
Not yet.
Yeah, okay, thank you. The ordinance was passed in 2001, not been acted on for 20 years, essentially. My other question is, has this ordinance been updated over the last 20 years, or will it be before this is implemented to the city? Because ordinances and things like this that are so dated would possibly be completely out of date. So that's why I wanted to ask about that as well. And this Choice One company, is that a person that's bid on this to consult with the city, or someone that's been chosen just
I
because?
can answer that question. The ordinance question is up to them. Professional services are not required to be bid. We've signed a contract and we signed an ordinance, I would say, at the beginning of the year, this council did, to hire Choice One as, quote, the city engineer.
Thank
So
you.
they're the ones that we use.
It was just a name unfamiliar to me, so thank you. And that's about all I have. Thank you.
Kim?
Yes, sir.
What's your address, please? We'd like to keep it in the record.
I'm on 730 Birchwood Drive.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Matt Stogler, 450 East 4th Street. I'm here to speak in support of the sidewalk project. And I know there's a lot of folks here. I'll do my best to keep my remarks brief. But I took the liberty to just do just a little bit of research on through some different academic journals on the benefits of walkability in neighborhoods, good sidewalks, the health benefits, the economic benefits from the National Institutes of Health, and the Urban Land Institute. And I've also got some emails from residents of the city that are in support of this project as well. So I'd like to submit those for the record, and Vicki, I'll send those in an email to you. The thing I wanted to touch on tonight was the question of liability that was brought up at the public hearing a couple of weeks ago. The question was, if someone trips on a sidewalk, is there legal exposure not only to the homeowner but to the city as well? A question that wasn't asked was, is there legal liability that the city has exposure to under the Americans with Disabilities Act? I took the liberty then to reach out to Disability Rights Ohio, which is an advocacy organization for disabled Ohioans, and essentially laid out this kind of summary to them, that if the city is the enforcing agency of sidewalk maintenance, and if the city has done an official survey that the sidewalks are deficient and are a known hazard, is failure to act to repair them open the city up to legal liability. So I got an email back from David Stauffer, who is the staff attorney at Disability Rights Ohio, and I just want to very quickly read his response. He said, Mr. Stogler, the answer is generally yes. Even though property owners are responsible to maintain the sidewalks adjacent to each owner's respective property, cities usually just levy a bill for repair and maintenance and fix it themselves. By allowing the sidewalks to decay and not maintain them, your local government is likely violating the Americans with Disabilities Act. My recommendation is that you contact the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division. One of the duties of the DOJ is to enforce the ADA against individuals and government entities who violate it. And there's precedent for this. There are cities all over the country, unfortunately, right now, who are dealing with lawsuits based on sidewalk accessibility. The city of Atlanta right now is being sued. Portland, Oregon just settled a $113 million lawsuit against sidewalk accessibility. Los Angeles, $1.4 billion for sidewalk accessibility. So I think there's the ability to do this project if we can all come together and think of a creative solution. I don't think doing nothing is a workable solution anymore. So I really appreciate the administration. I appreciate Steve and Kurt and Roxanne's leadership on bringing this issue forward. And I hope that the council will do its best to put this program into place. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to address council?
My name is John Liette. I live at 451 East 4th Street, and I want to talk about the sidewalk program as well. When my wife and I bought our house almost 10 years ago, we knew that we were buying a lot that had a lot of deteriorating sidewalks that we'd have to eventually deal with. Like many other property owners in the area, though, we were somewhat surprised and maybe even a little disappointed when we learned that it's our financial obligation as property owners to upkeep and replace them as needed rather than it being something the city was responsible for. We were forced to learn more about this subject in 2011 when a large old dying tree next to our house that had been pushing up several sections of sidewalk for years finally gave way and fell, thankfully into the street, not into our or our neighbor's home. In fact, I had just driven under this tree moments before it fell. Thankfully, the only damage it ended up doing was to the sections of sidewalk that it had already been destroying with the growth of its roots over the years. The street department quickly took care of the tree in the road, but fixing the sidewalk fell to us. A young family still starting out and with only one income, but we scraped and we saved, and after a couple of inquiries from the city about our timeline, we replaced the damaged sidewalk. That new section is just about the only section on that side of our property that is not marked by gray arrows currently. Everything else is marked for replacement. The proposed sidewalk replacement program yielded us an estimated bill of $6,040 to replace 604 square feet of sidewalks. I believe that these sidewalks must be replaced. I believe a walkable surface is a necessity to move our neighborhoods into the right direction in terms of making them more viable and a more welcoming place for people to live and invest in, let alone to connect those of us who are already here. When we first moved in, one thing that I noticed and that I couldn't believe was the number of people who walk down the middle of the street every day. And this is everything from teenagers, kids walking back and forth to school, families pushing strollers, little kids on bikes. And I was just kind of flabbergasted by this, and I would ask people in kind of casual settings, like, why are people doing this? It doesn't make any sense to me. It's just incredibly dangerous. And the answer was always the same, that everybody knows the sidewalks are terrible. You can't push those things. You can't walk down the sidewalks with little kids. And in fact, just this week, my wife and I saw two people in powered wheelchairs riding down the middle of our street, weaving between parked cars to avoid traffic due to the surface of the sidewalks being in such rough terrain that apparently the risks of dealing with the road traffic seem less to them than the risks of taking a spill or getting stuck on the sidewalk. Aside from the clear and present need for the sidewalks to be passable for the disabled or those who simply aren't going to choose to walk over, around, or through the damaged terrain, nearly all properties for sale in our area on the listing, they list being close to downtown as an attraction for prospective property buyers. Greenville's downtown area specifically is in a period of revitalization between the upcoming openings of Yolo Park, the Sure Shot Tap House, and existing revitalized spaces like the Palace Building, the Merchant House, A&B Coffee, Sadie Grace, and so many other local businesses. Our neighborhood is in desperate need of a level of investment and maintenance to attract folks not just to visit those areas on Broadway, but to live and play in the surrounding neighborhoods as well. Our neighborhood and the city as a whole have a lot of problems that we all know about and have talked about for all the years that I've been a property owner in the city, and I'm sure for all the years before. New sidewalks will not cure all of these problems, but it, to me, is the first step to making the neighborhood a desirable place for the types of activity that we actually want to take place there. And to take that step, we must make the area itself desirable. One component of that overall picture are the sidewalks, and they have been neglected as a whole for far too long. The replacing the sidewalks is expensive. The cost of replacing them is a burden on my family as well as most of the other families who will be affected by this. especially those with not just hundreds of square feet of sidewalks, but also multiple large trees that need to be taken down and replaced. To me, this is a burden worth shouldering with the city's help. I'm speaking tonight to voice support for the proposed program to replace the sidewalks in our area, but also to implore City Council and the city administration to exhaust all efforts, both financially and creatively, to help property owners most adversely impacted by this plan from a financial perspective. Incoming Councilmember Matthew Stogler has proposed multiple ways to ease this burden on citizens, either by graduated repayment periods based on the amount assessed, city-funded grants to those with the lowest incomes, keeping any administrative fees or interest for the assessments at an absolute minimum, or any other means where the city can help. As much as I am on board with property owners bearing the financial burden and responsibility of this project, I also know the city has identified this as an issue for nearly 20 years without creating a plan to address it and having the fortitude to see it through. Therefore, I again urge those in charge to not just impose fees on the property owners to get the project done, but to find ways to work with us, to hear ideas, and be willing to approach the issue with a desire to make it work for as many people as possible. When I think of what our neighborhood will look like 20 years from now, I sincerely hope that it's inviting for families of all ages, having reversed the process of deterioration that has occurred over the last several decades. In my opinion, addressing simple infrastructure like sidewalks now can set the stage for that revitalization that we all desperately want and need. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to address council may do so.
Good evening, Mr. President and members of council. Mark Wolf, 629 Chestnut Street. I'm here to speak about two topics. First, the sidewalk project that's been in the news media. We had the special meeting that I attended a couple weeks ago down at Memorial Hall. First of all, I am in support of City Council and administration with proceeding with this project. As I'm not going to repeat what he just said about all that, and other speakers have, that it's necessary for the city, and we know that. Hence the program. The policy was adopted 2001. I have a couple questions relating to this. First, has there ever been any property owner in the city under this policy that's in this packet we received a couple weeks ago been required to replace sidewalks?
For that, sir. That's the amount of time that I've been here.
Okay, so, but there have been. And part of the project on Schweitzer Street years ago, and I'm talking about, let's say 6 or 7 years ago, in the 500 to 800 block range or so, there were property owners down there that were required to replace sidewalks, and some of them were assessed. So this is really nothing new. One of the issues I have with it, I want to mention, is that, why are we here today with this? And it seems to me that we just haven't been. We, as the city administration council and everybody that lives here, has not been pursuing this policy that was adopted in 2001. So we need to, it's a good policy. I've read through it several times, and I don't think it's out of date whatsoever. I think it's a solid policy. It just needs to be followed through with. So again, I am in support of that. You've got a good system with the rules out there. Please follow through with it. The second thing I want to do is I'm going to pose a hypothetical situation to you, and I'm going to get some answers. We got the administration here and members of council. Is there any regulations, rules, ordinances, and so forth on the books that would limit or require me to comply with regulations if I sell things from my home?
For the safety service and the mayor, they're the day-to-day operations.
Correct. Well, city council writes and passes ordinances, right? So nobody answered it? Nobody knows the answer?
Not that I know of.
Well, I believe there's a garage sale ordinance.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Yeah, absolutely. And there is. And I believe it's chapter, section 820 in the codified ordinances, to be specific. 828. Right here it is. So there's stipulations in here about what you can and cannot do by home sales, is what that's called, and so forth. And there's several stipulations in there about how you can do it, when you can do it, how often you can do it, the length of time you can do it. And my point is to all this is, if I have a garage sale at my house, by this ordinance, I am required to get a permit from the city and comply with those guidelines. Is that correct? Correct?
Sure.
Okay. So then,
No cost, just.
what's that?
There's no cost.
Right. Absolutely. There's no cost to it. Just jump through the hoops, get the permit, go do your business, correct? So my big question to this is, we've a structure down here or place at 311 North or West Main Street that sells things on a continuous basis about 8 to 9 months out of the year. And I know the guy isn't in compliance, and I'm asking the city, why are we not forcing him to comply with the home sale ordinance that anyone else would need to?
Mark, I questioned that some time ago, and I think I was told at that time he was selling food products, and food products was exempt from that,
Food products.
meaning pumpkins and squash and things like that.
So there's some rule, it's not in this. There's nothing in this that exempts food products. Am I correct?
I've never seen it, Mark. Never seen it. Never. I haven't
Okay.
either.
Chapter 828, home sales.
Okay, so what is your point, sir?
Why is he not being required to follow the rules that everybody else does? And I can tell you, like right now, there are no food products down there. He's got flowers and hanging baskets and so forth. I know at times during the year he does sell pumpkins and tomatoes and so forth. So am I right? You have to have a permit. Does he have a permit? If not, does he have to get a permit? Can he comply with the regulations in the permit?
Permits are issued out of the mayor's office, is that correct?
Yeah. Like in the past, he has had, but not for a long time.
Okay.
I believe one of the stipulations in here, if I'm correct, tell me if I'm wrong, is you're allowed to get a permit twice a year. And I think it's 4 days is the time span for each.
Is that the time span for the permit is 4 days? Is that it?
I believe each time you get one.
I'm not sure about that. I know in the past, he's kind of cleaned things up and taken some things out, but then, he goes right
Yeah.
back to the same way before.
So if it needs to have a complaint filed, that's what I'm doing now. He should comply with the regulations just like anybody else that's selling things from their home, yard sale, garage sale, any of those types of things.
I don't think we as council can enforce that part of it. We as council can't enforce
No,
that.
we're not,
We're not an
We're
enforcement.
not the enforcement officers,
we're not
the
the
legislative body.
administrators.
You know that.
Well, I know that, but you're the folks that write the ordinances, that pass them. The ordinance book is yours. And in many cases, parts of that is delegated down to the city departments to enforce it. The ordinance book, for anybody that doesn't know, it's pretty thick. It's a pretty thick document. It's got a lot of stuff in it.
Are there still ordinance books, or is it all online?
It's all-
It's all online.
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Chuck Gasper, 307 Wayne Avenue. I'm here in favor of the sidewalk project. I think the safety outweighs all the other excuses, and I think you're on the right path of doing it. But doing what I do today and on the streets all the time for 8 hours a day, I can see this. I can see people in the streets. It's going to cause a problem of safety. It's a wonder that a lot of people haven't been hit already. And if the excuse is because the sidewalks aren't good enough to use, then yes, we definitely do need to do something to improve them. But I do think you're on the right path. I know when my sidewalks went bad, I replaced them. Yeah, it cost me some money, but I just kind of think it's my own responsibility to do that. At least that's the way my mom and dad raised me. So I know a lot of things have changed today. But I still think that we really do need to, get a hold of what we need to fix and fix them. Whether it's your own property or if it's a rental property, safety doesn't care. It should be done. So I'm definitely in favor of the sidewalk project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Chuck.
Anyone else?
Good evening, Amber Garrett, 716 Spring Street. I want to speak on two things. One, Matthew, I appreciate you bringing up the idea of the pretty lights on North Broadway. I don't live on North Broadway, but I live just off of North Broadway, Meeker, right there, is my house. I would be in support of also helping to pay for that, and also maybe even help find other residents that live in the neighboring neighborhoods like I do that would also be willing to help fund that. I want to thank Kurt for also, Mr. Garrison, also for helping him with that. I think that's a big deal. I know it's hard when it gets to this point and residents bring up ideas like this, and it can be frustrating because it has been a project that you've talked about for a long time, but I appreciate your time and taking that to do that. Also, I'm here in support of the sidewalk project. Again, I'm not going to sit there. I think John did an amazing job speaking to that, and same thing with Matt and anybody else. I will say I just think that the sidewalks do connect us in so many ways. I chose to buy a home in town, in where I live, for the purpose that I can walk to the park. I can walk to the Maid-Rite. I can walk downtown. I literally, where I live, I can walk to anywhere that I want to go in our community, and that is so important to why I bought my house where I bought it. I recommend my neighborhood to everybody for that reason. And so I'm really excited to hear that the city is trying to take this on and also to work with the citizens to make it work for them as well. So I appreciate you trying to move that forward. Thank you.
Anyone else? We don't have a big agenda tonight, but if there's no one else wanting to speak to council, we will move the agenda and proceed with the administrative reports. Mr. Mayor.
The only thing I have is I want to speak in support of the sidewalk project also. It's kind of been something I wanted to pursue ever since I've been the mayor's job. There's a couple times that council's even provided some money towards that. One time it was like $5,000, one time it was $50,000. And we talked it around with with Kurt, the Safety Service Director, and Chad, our planning and zoning, our planning office, and maybe you throw that in there that we're going to be sorry that he left. But anyway, it was one of his big items that he's always wanted to pursue, and probably never got enough support to really get anything going. When I came in, he saw some help maybe, but as the last couple of years have gone in trying to figure out how to do repairs, we've looked at them quite a few times, different places, where to start. We kind of wanted to follow where our paving program has gone. And at the present, we kind of wanted to do that east side of town, the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 3rd Street's in the plans to get paved. So we're trying to get in that area and we'll get everything done in those areas at the same time. As we talked about this, the money hasn't been enough. And the support hasn't been enough. Not that there's people that don't want to support it. It just hasn't come to the surface in a priority mindset, I guess is what I was saying. But I just want to make sure we just realize that there's a lot of things that make up a good city. And it's sidewalks is a part of that. It's streets, it's sidewalks, it's housing, and it all has to come together. I mean, we have a fantastic place here, a beautiful city. Everybody would love to live here. Well, look at the hospital, the schools. I mean, everything is good. Everything is growing. And we've let this go too long. They saw almost 20 years ago that we needed to repair these sidewalks. But it just, we haven't gotten the support to do it. And part of that time, we didn't have the money to do it. And I'm sure that's part of it. But maybe we do now. I think we can get it started. We can do this. And it's got to be something that we all want to do. When are we going to do it? I mean, we're going to wait until there's nothing left and have to, do them all. I mean, gosh, if they had pursued this 18 years ago, where it was that, It'd only been half the cost, maybe. I don't know. I'm throwing that out there, but now it's expensive. It is. But we're gonna wait until another 5 years, and then it's gonna be 900,000. You know, it's a goodness sakes. I think we just gotta get started. We gotta get something done. However we get there, I hate to say go to a committee, and you know, maybe that's what it is. Maybe not. Do we feel strong enough to just get it done? I don't know. The city can do it.
Mayor, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Is there any sorts of grants that we can pursue to help people pay for these sidewalks? The people
Yeah.
that are very low income, and I'm not saying 200% medium income, I think that's pretty high, but there's gonna be people that's 50% of the medium income out there. And or can the city pick up part of this burden? Like, you know, like Matt had come up with some figures. And with those figures, if you're looking at grants to these homeowners, you know, $250,000, can the city afford to be able to put that forward each year for the next 10 years so that these projects can be expedited? You know, like bringing up the idea of civil liability. If that is the case, you can't wait for Section 10 to be 10 years down the road, because then it looks like we're really negligible. And maybe we need to look at a thing of sharing the burden, that the whole city shares the burdens on getting these sidewalks in place, like we do the bike paths or the sidewalks uptown. Maybe we need to share that burden in the form of a tax, so that we can get this project really moving, not on just a minor level each year. Any ideas about that?
Well, you know, one of the things that, and the only reason that I would like to see a committee formed is that fact that maybe we can find other places or talk to people that are understanding more about grants, to find out if there is some money out there for people that have a hard time affording it. Other than that, we could go the same route as what we've done in the CIC with some small grants to help people out in some of the neighborhoods to fix their properties up. That's we're trying to get started.
Is there a possibility, you know, I hate to bring something like this up, but, you know, our infrastructure needs being done. It can't be kicked on the road all the time. Like a percentage, like a quarter-cent addition to the sales tax here in Greenville. You talk about spreading the liability, that would be the fairest way to do it. I see head shaking, but I'd like to know why.
Sales tax is only collected at the county level.
I'm sorry?
Sales tax is only collected at the county level.
At the county level.
Is that something
The
that?
city has
Well,
no income tax.
all I'm saying is I've lived in other areas where that's not the case. The city.
State of Ohio, it is.
Well,
Yeah.
and not living in the state of Ohio all my life, I didn't know that, but I was asking, so I asked.
Yeah. You know, you're right about we have 10 sections. It's going to take a long time if we only do one a year, no doubt about that. But as time goes along and we do start this program, and 3 years down the road, we're going to start seeing some of that return, that money. You know, maybe in 3 to 5 years, we wouldn't have to put that much back into that fund. You know, you could hopefully it'll kind of grow on its own, and if you keep that money in place, that it'll.
Yeah, if it doesn't go back to the general fund, but stays within a fund for sidewalks, because then we could maybe expand.
That'd be the best idea. I'm not sure we're set up for that, but yeah, that would be the best way to go, no doubt. Then you can progress into, instead of a 10-year plan, it falls into maybe a 5-year plan or 6 or something. That would be the best thing to see. I don't know if you can get it shorter than that, but I don't know.
I think, Mr. Mayor, the crux of the whole issue is, first of all, property owners, fix your sidewalks, period.
There you go. Yeah.
Done. Over. I don't care if you're a landlord, you have 20 properties, fix your sidewalks if they need repaired.
That's what we got on the books, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
No, they're not
I
going to
agree.
do it. Then how much burden does the city want to take on financially? because you have
Right.
well over 100 employees, all the safety services and everything that eats up a lot of that $18 million. And how much money you're going to spend, quote, the city going to do for other people. And I think you have to be careful. The city can't be responsible for doing everything for everyone.
That's right.
And they have to take some responsibility of doing some things for themselves. Now, if we could do it in the form of a sidewalk tax, if you want to float something on the levy for that, maybe that's not a bad idea.
I don't know, I just
Before
don't.
the voters, if they want that to happen, put it before the voters. And
We gotta get people to vote first.
Not very fair, that's the only thing. It's not gonna be very fair. I mean, it's, like you said, it's on the books now. Why change it? Why go to vote? Why have people pay for other people's sidewalks? I mean, kind of the same thing you were saying. It's like, it's on there. They need to get it done too. But I think we do need to go out and look for ways to help people. I mean, we don't have to help everybody, but I mean, the least we could do is reach out to the people in the know that write grants. Maybe we could find something. Maybe we can go to the
I
state.
thought we had a firm that did some grant issues for us before. Have you contacted them? To
Well, I
see
don't know
about
if that's-
What may be available?
No, I haven't. No,
Oh,
no, I haven't.
okay. Maybe that's something, an avenue we need to pursue.
That's what I was saying. Right.
Yeah, and I'm not advocating we pay for everybody's sidewalks, but there's going
Right.
to be a lot of sidewalk out there that there's going to be people that have no way to pay.
I don't think there's as many as you think.
Well, I don't know. See, I deal with a lot of nonprofits that deal with a lot of low income.
Well, and that's what you see, so.
Yeah, I see.
But then sometimes that's kind of skewed,
Oh, yeah.
So, who knows for sure? I mean, you gotta get some kind of paperwork done and check it out, so.
When we're talking about having to comply with the Disabilities Acts and all that, that's where maybe the grant money might be available, who knows?
Right. Yeah, that's all I'm saying, I'm for it, and we need to reach out and see if we can find ways to help people, no doubt. So, I'm done.
When you say "we," is that something you're going to pursue?
Well, I think it's something that we all should do. I mean,
somebody's gotta
somebody
take
brought
the
up
lead.
the fact that maybe we should have a committee.
Here's-
And maybe that's something that can be done too. As a group, as part of the council, as part of the administration, we could do that together.
We do have the where are we? Safety Committee, sidewalks, streets and alleys, traffic signals, parking controls, police and fire department operations. Chairman, Mr. Wright, Vice Chairman, Mr. Rogers, and member, Mr. Godwin. That's our committee already on the books, take care of that. So you're requesting a committee assignment?
No,
No.
You're not? Okay.
not particularly, no. I mean,
Oh.
it's not something that we have to do. We can reach out and as far as administration, we can look for people to do that too. I just thought a collaborative effort with council would make it better. And if you're thinking we need a committee report, then assignment to get a report.
So some kind of an ad hoc committee? Is that
Well,
what you're talking about?
every time you do that, it's gonna be another month down the road. I mean,
That's what I'm
the bad
thinking about a
part it.
committee.
And that's why,
Push it down the road.
that's what I don't wanna do.
Okay, so what are you suggesting? You
We're
want a
talking
committee?
about having this, doing these repairs next year.
What?
We have time to look for ways to, if we can, to help people.
So that's what you're going to do?
We
You're
can.
going to look at those, pursue that, and come back with some recommendations for council?
If nobody wants a committee report, then, yeah. I mean, I'm not the only one here. I mean, somebody else might want.
Why can't we check with the grant people and
We can.
ask them if there's
can.
anything out there?
How do we know until we got to this place, we need a committee without even knowing we're gonna do it? We don't know I don't know that we're gonna get it done, even start.
So you don't want a committee assignment to the utilities, excuse me, to the safety committee?
We don't need one per se.
Okay.
I just thought maybe you might want one.
We gotta know who's gonna do what. I guess that's what we're
That's what
getting
I-
at.
And
That's
I've,
what
and
I'm
I've already
asking you
answered that
for.
question. I
That's
said,
what-
yes, I have answered that question. Yes, we could reach out. I can help do that, yes.
Okay.
I don't know everybody. I can't do it myself.
What help do you want from this council?
How do we get grants for things? Like, you know, like the grant for the Wagner Avenue expansion, that's like $2 million.
Well, it usually comes out of somebody in the engineering companies that we hire that writes grants, and Kurt, Chad has always known the places that we normally go to and to contact people to find out about them
Is Chad still here?
Why haven't we
for a
pursued
few
that?
days. We didn't know if we're gonna do it or not, I guess.
Why can't? How about if council approves it, let me call and find out if there's grants available for sidewalks. We can sit here for another hour and run this around the table.
Mr. Wright, you're chairman of the safety committee, and I will make that an individual assignment to you.
Thank you.
Good
All
deal.
right?
I'll be on that.
Very good.
Way to go,
I'll
Dave.
definitely help you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Nobody else?
Mr. Mayor, are you finished with your report?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Moving on. Safety Service Director, Mr. Garrison.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. Council, you have my report in front of you. We will roll through this quickly. As far as an update on projects, we have scheduled a ribbon cutting for the 4 Schweitzer Street project on July the 18th at 2 p.m. I believe that is on a Thursday. We would welcome your attendance if you can find that time available. With the North Broadway project, breaking it up into 2 sections. The north section, the curb is complete. You'll see that they've been digging out around the driveways and the section between the existing street and a new curb. That is for the placement of asphalt. That placement of asphalt is to happen next week. With the rain delays that we may be incurring this week, that may get pushed back a little bit, but that is our intent at this time. With the south section, while they're doing asphalt on the north side, crews will be moving to the south side. That is everything from North Main Street to the Circle, and we will begin the excavation for the new curb installation. You will see that the foundations for the streetlights are currently in. So the project is moving on schedule, and we anticipate the first project, if you will, of the North Broadway total project is to be completed by the end of July. And Rimbaugh Construction feels that we are on schedule for that completion date. In the meantime, you may also see ADC Concrete with their equipment in the north area, and it is our hope that they will begin sidewalks as soon as possible so that we can end up with paving prior to the end of September. Kind of already discussed the number 3 there with the street lighting. We'll be meeting with the electrical contractor. Again, I feel that we can create, if we wish to move forward with that project, we will be able to do it more efficiently ourselves. We can purchase the material, and there will be no markup on it. We can have the electrical contractor do the directional boring, and there will be no prime contractor markup on a project like that. And it would help us to be able to accomplish that task if council feels that is a priority and we have the money to move that forward. With the Wagner Avenue Road Widening Project, we have a special meeting on Thursday, this coming Thursday, June the 20th. I put down 6 p.m. I believe that meeting's at 7 p.m. That meeting is at 7 p.m., so change that on my report there, please. Letters have went out to all of the property owners, along with the assessment information and various plan files for their particular parcels. I'm not going to hash the sidewalk project. There are some decisions that need to be made. When it comes to, I'll just address the concern of do we need a committee? I think that question goes back to this council. There are questions that need to be answered. And I guess my only question to you is, what forum are we going to answer those questions? Are we going to sit at a council meeting and have a very frank and open discussion? Or are we going to go to a committee of 3 or a special council meeting on another night and hammer this out? Because if we're going to move forward, we just have questions that need to be answered. There's more questions that came up tonight. We just need to figure out the forum in which we're going to arrive at those answers, whether it be a council meeting, a special council meeting on another night, or a committee of 3 that reports back to the full council. So whatever this council decides is the best vehicle to get those questions answered, that'll answer whether or not we need a committee report, in my opinion.
Committee as a whole, I
Yeah, I
think.
think committee of the whole.
I think this is an important enough issue that a committee of the whole is something that we really need to consider.
Okay.
Probably a separate
And,
meeting, huh?
Pardon?
Probably a separate meeting, you think?
Oh, yes, yes. And, well, I'll comment on that later.
Okay, I'll keep going. Unless, and I didn't really try to chime in while the mayor was speaking, if anyone has any questions about the sidewalk project that I can answer, be more than happy to entertain those questions. If not, I'll move on.
Kurt, do you see any, I don't know to what degree you've dealt with grants, but do you think there might be some?
No. I think if
That's
there
a
were
good answer.
sidewalk grants out there, that every community would have
Everyone
nice
would want
sidewalks.
one, I would think.
Now, there are grants for sidewalks, don't get me wrong. We're using one of them right now through ODOT on North Broadway. That was a transportation alternatives grant. That was not a road grant.
Yeah, yeah.
Actually, that's a separate project, but the transportation alternative grant was to get sidewalks in an area. There's safe routes to school through ODOT, but the safe routes to school program, it's probably, and it's at least 10 years old. And, you know, at the beginning of the program, years 1 through 3, they were doing big projects, and then everybody kind of caught wind of what ODOT was doing, and people were building newer schools, and so they were going after the transportation alternatives money. I think they've reduced that total grant award down to $250,000, and that's shared, you know, and they only award so many in the state of Ohio, and that's shared all throughout the state. So the likelihood of getting that grant, we actually have applied for that grant when for 4th Street, East 4th Street, just on the other side of the bridge, trying to connect the Ohio Street project with the new school. We applied, I believe, 2 to 3 years in a row, and were turned down every time. Ohio Public Works, I would tell you that a road project will score higher than just a sidewalk project. Now, we can, if the money's available, and depending on how it would score, you could try to get 0% interest loan money. But I would tell you a sidewalk project by itself is not going to score well. And those are competitive grants with everyone in our district. The short answer is I do not believe, unless we're going to go find some specialty organization or foundation that would support our cause, the ODNRs, the ODOTs, the Ohio Public Works, CDBG, those grants just aren't.
You've provided some good information for everyone, you know.
And I think, people were asking, well, why don't we go to our grant writers? We've worked hand in hand with Choice One, or in the day, Moat and Associates, who also had a grant writer. If those grants were available, and we've never made bones about our issues, that sidewalks have been at the top of our priority. If we had that grant, I promise you, I would have brought it in front of you already.
And Council President Burkett mentioned it quickly, something about maybe the possibility of a sidewalk tax, separate.
Again, that's a time for a committee of the whole, and something
Yeah.
that needs to be
We need
decided
to talk
outside
about
of the
that.
administration. So,
We need to talk about that.
okay. Any other questions on sidewalks? Mosquito spraying. If you haven't noticed, it's rained a lot. With a lot of rain comes mosquitoes. I learned a lesson about mosquitoes, and I'll just share briefly with you. The majority of the mosquitoes that we have inside the city came from outside the city. They're not born here. They're born outside of the city and they fly to the light. So we have the areas like the Prairie. We have areas, well, on the back side of the Prairie, which is the old tile factory, all the way around to our gun range, is a breeding ground for mosquitoes, and we treat those areas. We actually trap the mosquitoes on a regular basis just to see what the mosquito population is. But because of the wet spring and summer, we've discussed spraying every 2 weeks. Normally, we would have maybe only sprayed once a month, depending on, as I've stated in this before this council, if there was a complaint. Well, there are numerous complaints this year, and obviously the weather has been indicative of that. So, if council would wish us to continue to spray for mosquitoes for 2 weeks, all the way through the month of September, we're going to need more money because we're quickly running through our budget allowance for mosquito spraying. And yes, I am not exaggerating in that number that you have in your report. It's going to be $10,000. One of the chemicals that we use, a 55-gallon drum, costs as much as the money I'm requesting, 55 gallons of it. And that will get us through the rest of the time that we have. So what we're looking at is we spray every 2 weeks. We alternate. 1 week we spray to kill the eggs. The next week the next time we spray just to kill the live mosquitoes. The spray to kill the live mosquitoes doesn't cost as much. So conferred with Ryan Delk on this. If it's council's pleasure to continue this, this is what we'll need to do that.
Where would the money come from?
Out of the general fund, additional appropriations.
There's a lot of health concerns regarding mosquitoes. I mean, you got to do it.
If there are no objections, it's informal, I guess, tonight, but if there are no objections to bring that legislation forward at the next meeting.
Would that be okay with the auditor?
Absolutely.
Lady with the money.
I think it's a necessity.
Okay, good. All right.
And quickly, the last thing is a moral obligation. We've discussed moral obligations recently with a gentleman who had issues with a sewer line. I would tell you that when we were, try to keep this story short, but when we were putting in the foundation for the traffic signal up on Harmon Drive, a sewer lateral to a property that doesn't sit on the corner, it's actually one house in, did something that we never anticipated. And we do not mark sewer laterals because the sewer lateral is the property of the homeowner to maintain. So we were unable to tell our contractor where the lateral was at. Well, sure enough, when they dug the foundation, they went right through this gentleman's sewer lateral, and it created a backup. And it was far enough away from his house that we said, yeah, there's no way this is the city's problem. So he contacted us first. We went out, we did the assessment. Unlike the other situation, this gentleman called a plumber. Plumber said, sir, there's nothing we can do for you. I have the charges on my report there that you can see, and I'm asking that this council would approve that moral obligation and that amount to that individual. I don't believe I listed the individual's name, but if you so approve, we'll have legislation at the next meeting with the name and amount. Move that forward.
Anyone have an issue with that?
No. And this actually comes from Kim Davis as her and I were discussing this matter. Just something that we would like council to maybe consider, and I don't know if this would go to utilities or where it would go. Seems like moral obligations fall a lot under the utilities. But a previous ordinance, and that ordinance is fairly old, it set a limitation of $500 for moral obligations, that anything above and beyond the $500, if the administration felt that it was our fault or the city was liable and it was under 500, the administration, between myself, I believe the law director has to sign off on it, and we can approve that payment less than 500. Again, that was old. We're seeing, some of these bills come in. We're maybe asking council to consider raising that threshold to $1,000. And we can take that under advisement. I'll bring it up at another meeting, but just something to think about. With that, Mr. Council President, no other questions, I will pass.
Questions for the Safety Service Director? Next will be the Law Director, Mr. Brandt.
I will pass.
Auditor, Mrs. Wilman.
I will pass as well.
Just one quick question. you know, as we begin to review some of this sidewalk and all this stuff, we've heard a lot of different types of figures thrown around. And I know having a lot of nebulous information and nothing really super concrete, other than perhaps phase one. We really need some concrete figures as we look at this, and I don't want to put an extra burden on the auditor's office. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at this.
I recently had asked the Safety Service Director and Chad and a few other people to look at our CIP for next year, what we actually were already committed to and what we could put in place for the sidewalk program. So I'm currently looking at that right now, and if we're going to have a committee of the whole meeting, I should definitely have some actual figures for you at that point.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, moving on to committee reports. Out of the Finance Committee report, we have a review of the 2020 preliminary budget.
A report dated June 11th, 2019. Honorable members, we hereby submit our report. The Finance Committee met on June 3rd, 2019 to go over the submission request for the 2020 preliminary budget. The committee finds that the figures provided by the auditor balance and recommends that council approve the proposed budget submission so that the 2020 preliminary budget can be filed with the County Budget Commission. Respectfully submitted Committee on Finance, Chairman John Hensley, Vice Chairman Doug Schmidt, and Member Jeff Whitaker.
Move to accept the committee's report.
Motion by Mr. Rogers to accept the committee's report. Discussion. Call the roll, please.
Wright?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Hottishell?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker?
Yes.
Do we have to have a formal resolution to go with that? Just a vote from the committee report would be fine?
Right, well, then we'll have the public hearing, the first meeting
Right,
of
in
July,
July.
and then there'll be an informal or a vote by
Right.
the whole, and that's it.
Okay, good enough. Thank you. Under committee reports, before we move on to ordinances and resolutions, I have a request from the Safety Service Director to assign to the Utilities Committee for the purpose of reviewing specifications for the 2020 refuse contract. The end of the assignment, the committee will report on has reviewed specifications for trash pickup, suggest any needed changes to the specs, provide preliminary rate structure request, so on and so forth. Give them a good assignment there. But our contract is expiring with the current refuse collector, right?
Correct, April 1,
Huh?
2020. April 1, 2020.
April 1, 2020. The reason we're doing it so far in advance is simply because if there are significant changes, you can't change refuse contractors in 30 days. It takes a long time. So I'm going to assign that to the Utilities Committee. Mr. Godwin, Mr. Wright, and Mr. Hensley. So, due date, at least by, what, September?
Yes.
September? Okay, last meeting in September. I'll give you some time to work on that.
Mike.
Get it before the snow flies. Okay, now moving on to ordinance and resolutions. First, we have a supplemental appropriations ordinance.
An ordinance to make additional appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Greenville, State of Ohio during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2019. This ordinance authorizes appropriations to the general fund for office supplies administration in the amount of $1,500. These funds are needed to cover nuisance abatement filing costs to clerk of courts, healthcare premium, income tax in the amount of $6,670. These funds are needed to cover an additional employee on the city healthcare plan, and to the park fund for Leisure Fund Park in the amount of $1,000. These funds were donated by Walmart and are needed to stock the ponds with fish.
Make a motion to suspend the rules on this ordinance and read it by title only, second and third time.
Mr. Godwin, to suspend the rules, read the ordinance by title, second, third time. Discussion. Call the roll, please.
Wright?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Hottishell?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker?
Yes.
An ordinance to make additional appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Greenville, State of Ohio during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2019. An ordinance to make additional appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Greenville, State of Ohio during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2019.
Move to adopt the ordinance.
Motion by Mr. Rogers to adopt the ordinance. Discussion. Call the roll.
Wright?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Hottishell?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker?
Yes.
Next, we have an ordinance establishing community event guidelines, establishing an application process and fee.
An ordinance establishing community event guidelines and establishing an application process and fee, and further establishing applicable charges for approved community events. This ordinance establishes certain events to be exempt from the payment of the application fee and charges associated with the event.
Move to suspend the rules and read this ordinance by the title, second and third time.
Motion by Mrs. Haddishell to suspend the rules, read the ordinance by title, second, third time. Discussion. Call the roll.
Wright?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Hottishell?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker?
Yes.
An ordinance establishing community event guidelines and establishing an application process and fee, and further establishing applicable charges for approved community events. An ordinance establishing community event guidelines and establishing an application process and fee, and further establishing applicable charges for approved community events.
Move to adopt the ordinance.
Motion by Mr. Rogers to adopt the ordinance. Discussion. Call the roll, please.
Wright?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Hottishell?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker?
Yes.
Next, we have a resolution authorizing the transfer of, transfer of equipment to another political subdivision.
A resolution authorizing the transfer of used equipment to another political subdivision. This resolution authorizes the sale of a 2005 Craftco Super Shot 125 with compressor to Greenville Township in the amount of $8,500.
Move to suspend the rules, give this resolution second and third reading by title only.
Motion by Mr. Rogers to suspend the rules and read the resolution by title, second and third time. Discussion. Call the roll.
Wright?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Hottishell?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker?
Yes.
A resolution authorizing the transfer of used equipment to another political subdivision. A resolution authorizing the transfer of used equipment to another political subdivision.
Move to adopt.
Motion by Mr. Whitaker to adopt the resolution. Discussion. Call the roll, please.
Wright?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Hottishell?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker?
Yes.
And next, we have a resolution authorizing advertising for bids for rental of municipal land along KitchenAid Way.
A resolution authorizing advertising for bids for rental of municipal land along KitchenAid Way. This resolution authorizes the Safety Service Director to advertise for bids for the rental of municipal lands adjacent to KitchenAid Way.
Move to suspend the rules, give this resolution second and third reading by title only.
Motion by Mr. Rogers to suspend the rules, read the resolution by title, second, third time. Discussion. Call the roll, please.
Wright?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Hottishell?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker?
Yes.
A resolution authorizing advertising for bids for rental of municipal land along KitchenAid Way. A resolution authorizing advertising for bids for rental of municipal land along KitchenAid Way.
Move to adopt.
Motion, Mrs. Haudashelt, to adopt the resolution. Discussion. Is this a farmland?
Yes.
Okay. Call the roll, please.
Wright?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Hottishell?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker?
Yes.
Next, we have a resolution authorizing bidding for breathing air cascade system for use by the fire department.
A resolution authorizing bidding for breathing air cascade systems for use by the fire department. This resolution authorizes the Safety Service Director to advertise for bids for breathing air cascade systems for use by the fire department.
Move to suspend the rules and give this resolution reading by title only for second and third time.
Motion, Mr. Whitaker, to suspend the rules, read the resolution by title, second, third time. Discussion. Call the roll, please.
Wright?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Hottishell?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker?
Yes.
A resolution authorizing bidding for breathing air cascade systems for use by the fire department. A resolution authorizing bidding for breathing air cascade systems for use by the fire department.
Move to adopt the resolution.
Mr. Rogers to adopt the resolution. Discussion? Call the roll, please.
Wright?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Hottishell?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker?
Yes.
Next, a resolution to advertise for bids for the management of biosolids for 2019-20.
A resolution authorizing for bids for the management of biosolids for 2019 through 2020. This resolution authorizes the Safety Service Director to advertise for bids for the management of biosolids generated by the city's wastewater plant.
Move to suspend the rules and read this resolution by title, second and third time.
Motion by Mrs. Howdeshell to suspend the rules and read the resolution by title, second and third time. Discussion? Call the roll.
Wright?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Hottishell?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker?
Yes.
A resolution authorizing for bids for the management of biosolids for 2019 through 2020. A resolution authorizing for bids for the management of biosolids for 2019 through 2020.
Move to adopt the resolution.
Motion by Mr. Rogers to adopt the resolution. Discussion? Call the roll, please.
Wright?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Hottishell?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker?
Yes.
And next, we have a resolution authorizing Safety Service Director to advertise for bids for sewer lining services for 2019.
A resolution authorizing the Safety Service Director to advertise for bids for sewer lining services in 2019. This resolution authorizes the Safety Service Director to advertise for bids for lining sanitary sewers under Martin Street.
Make a motion to suspend the rules on this resolution and read it by title only, second and third time.
Motion by Mr. Godwin to suspend the rules, read the resolution by title, second, third time. Discussion? Call the roll, please.
Wright?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Hottishell?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker?
Yes.
A resolution authorizing the Safety Service Director to advertise for bids for sewer lining services in 2019. A resolution authorizing the Safety Service Director to advertise for bids for sewer lining services in 2019.
Move to adopt this resolution.
Motion by Mrs. Howdeshell to adopt the resolution. Discussion? Call the roll, please.
Wright?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Hottishell?
Yes.
Wright? Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker?
Yes.
That was it. And the next one, Emery, right? Amending resolution 2019
Yes.
or 1922. Resolution amending resolution 19-22 regarding services contract with Broadway Waterline Project and declaring an emergency.
A resolution amending resolution number 19-22 regarding services contract for Broadway Waterline Project and declaring an emergency. This resolution amends resolution number 19-22 in order to revise the plan for the new water line as part of the North Broadway Infrastructure Improvements Project. This resolution has an emergency clause.
Move to suspend the rules, give this resolution second and third reading by title only.
Mr. Rogers to suspend the rules, read it by title only, second and third time. Discussion? Call the roll, please.
Wright?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Hottishell?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker?
Yes.
A resolution amending resolution number 19-22 regarding services contract for Broadway Waterline Project and declaring an emergency. A resolution amending resolution number 19-22 regarding services contract for Broadway Waterline Project and declaring an emergency.
Motion to adopt the emergency.
Motion, Mrs. Howdeshell, to adopt the emergency clause. Discussion? Call the roll, please.
Wright?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Hottishell?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker?
Yes.
Move to adopt the resolution.
Motion by Mr. Rogers to adopt the resolution. Discussion? Call the roll.
Wright?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Hottishell?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker?
Yes.
And finally, item 9 that was added, resolution to waive the fees for the New Madison Disaster Relief Assistance and declaring an emergency.
A resolution waiving fees for New Madison tornado disaster relief and declaring an emergency. This resolution waives the street department fees in the amount of $6,132.52, including labor and equipment, to assist in the tornado cleanup for the village of New Madison. This resolution has an emergency clause.
Make a motion to suspend the rules on this resolution and read it by title only, second and third time.
Motion by Mr. Godwin, to suspend the rules, read the resolution by title, second and third time. Discussion. Call the roll, please.
Wright?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Hottishell?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker?
Yes.
A resolution waiving fees for New Madison tornado disaster relief and declaring an emergency. A resolution waiving fees for New Madison tornado disaster relief and declaring an emergency.
Move to adopt the emergency clause.
Motion by Mr. Rogers to adopt the emergency clause. Discussion. Call the roll, please.
Wright?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Hottishell?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker?
Yes.
Move to adopt the resolution.
Motion by Mr. Rogers to adopt the resolution. Discussion. Call the roll.
Wright?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Hottishell?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Garrison, we, spent a couple days down there for assisting New Madison?
Majority of our crew spent one day, and then we sent the gentleman down with the leaf or the limb loader on an additional day.
Okay. I think that was a good gesture. That concludes our ordinances and resolutions. Under new business, we have a Division of Liquor Control permit for Northtown Sunoco Incorporated, 1201 Russ Road, Greenville.
A letter dated June 12, 2019. Dear Clerk, I have no objection to the transfer of liquor permit number 64510640040 from Northtown Sunoco Incorporated at 1201 Russ Road, Greenville, Ohio 45331, to liquor permit number 9112487 at 1201 Russ Enterprises Incorporated, 1201 Russ Road, Greenville, Ohio. Should you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact me. Sincerely, Lieutenant Scott Ross for Chief Steve Strick.
Okay, so council has the ability to either not request a hearing or to request a hearing.
Not request a hearing.
Request a hearing? Okay, let the record show that the council chooses not to request a hearing. Thank you. Communications.
Monthly reports were received from the following departments: Fire Department, Police Department, Street Department, and Transit Department. And an email was received on June 15th from Lonnie Subler expressing their support for the sidewalk repair project. These reports and email were distributed to council.
Okay. At this time, I need a motion to excuse the absences for June.
So moved.
Motion, Ms. Hottishell, to excuse the absences for June. Discussion. Call the roll.
Wright?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Hottishell?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker?
Yes.
Would you like to call down the council, please?
Mr. Wright?
I'll pass.
Mr. Godwin?
I want to thank everybody for coming tonight and expressing their concerns about the sidewalks and issues within the city. And that'll pass.
Mr. Hensley?
Having sidewalks is no guarantee that people won't be out in the street, because I've got sidewalks in my neighborhood on both sides, and it's like driving down an obstacle course with people walking, baby buggies, and the whole 9 yards. So with that, I will pass.
Mrs. Hottishell?
I'd like to echo Mr. Godwin's. I thank everybody for coming out tonight and sharing their opinions on the sidewalks and other things in the city. And with that, I pass.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes, I'd like to thank everybody also for voicing their opinion on different subjects and so forth, and also bringing the matter of the lights to everything, that might be done or might not be done. So thank everybody for coming up, and I pass.
Mr. Schmidt?
I'll pass.
Mr. Whitaker?
I want to echo the same thing for all the people who came out in support of the sidewalk program. I think we need to do something about them. And I want to thank Mr. Garrison for all the work he's done and the legwork with choice one and, you know, doing the hearing and so forth, the public hearing that we had on the 6th. And I want to thank Mr. Wright for volunteering, if you will, to check into the possibility of any grants that might be available. You know, and I just want to say that anything that we can do to help this project along, I want to see it done. You know, we need these sidewalks, and there's a lot of things to take into consideration. And I just think we need to do all of our due diligence and the support of everybody that, you know, that's going to be involved. So with that, I'll pass.
President Burkett?
Mr. Wright, just a word of caution, and that's individual assignment. Make sure you keep good notes, because we do keep files on committee reports, and they must be maintained in the office.
Notes, what's that?
Pardon?
Notes, what's that?
Okay. I just want to make sure you have your bases covered. We've had some individual assignments where records haven't been duly kept, and it's created some problems. So I just wanted to caution you on that. Thank everyone else for coming up. There are a lot of issues, and they can't be solved overnight, and a lot of things have to happen. And so, you know, here we are planning the next meeting, July the 2nd, I believe it is. We have a public hearing on 2020 appropriations. So, you know, the city never sleeps. It keeps going all the time. And I appreciate everyone's attention, and thank the members of council for listening and having an attentive ear. With that, I would entertain a motion that we stand in, well, I'll declare a short recess while we clear the chambers, because we need to go into executive session for the purpose of Ohio Revised Code 121.22G1, which is matters of personnel.
So moved.
Motion, Mrs. Howdy-Shell, that we go into recess.